Hello.
Hi Zoe.
Hi, Julie. I'm very excited for this. I always love these practitioner live chats. It's always a really great conversation and a really good opportunity to catch up with you as well, Julie. I haven't sort of seen you and spoke to you for a while, so
For quite a long time.
yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
lovely. So hello to everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes for everyone to kind of join us and come and say hi. So do pop in the comments, come and say hello to us. And if you've got questions or you're struggling with something, then let us know in the comments, and we will answer your questions and help you along the way. So to get started, I guess it'd be good to kind of introduce us both and give people a little bit of a background into how we got into being a SIRPA health professional. So how did you get into this, Julie?
I think probably like an awful lot of us, I had my own experience of TMS. My primary symptom was back pain, and that was back in 2014, I think, 2015. Yeah, and I have an extensive history with my back. I had scoliosis, which was treated from the age of 9, and I've had loads of surgeries and back treatments and back braces and goodness knows what else. So I have an awful lot of kind of emotional history, all sort of focused around my back. So I think that's probably why my subconscious chose my back of all things that it was going to pick on. But yeah, and went all around the houses like we all do, trying to find things to fix me, and kind of stumbled across Dr. Sarno's books, and just kept on researching and following from there. And eventually, yeah, I actually had a bit of I can't say it was a book cure, but because I was reading loads of stuff, but it did happen whilst actually reading something. It was fantastic. I felt the pain kind of drain out of my body in a matter of seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. But because of that sort of miracle cure, it didn't last very long, because I was sort of became hypervigilant, looking all the time. When is it coming back? When is it coming back?
Yeah.
And so sure enough, it came back.
So what was your background kind of as a health professional then?
So I qualified. I started off as a nurse many years ago. Spent 5 years doing that, and then I left nursing, as many of us do, sadly. Got into medical screening in the insurance industry. So I've always done medical related stuff for my entire career. And then in 2014, I qualified as a nutritional therapist. So yeah, all along the line, really, I've been involved in medicine and health and physiology and biology and all the rest of it.
If anybody wants to ask any physically type questions, I'll be sending those ones to you. How long ago was your nursing?
Yeah, it was some time ago now.
And
how about you, Zoe?
So a little bit about me for those that haven't met me before. So I was in a corporate job. I was a learning and development consultant, and then I had quite an issue with stress, anxiety. Not that I knew it at the time. That was the problem at the time. I got diagnosed with IBS. I had migraines, and sort of came in it from that point of view. I then kind of started going down, understanding how the brain works and why we do what we do. So I qualified as an NLP practitioner. That led me on to hypnotherapy, so qualified in that, qualified as a coach, stress manager, all those kinds of things. And then the kind of SIRPA stuff got added to that And like you said, so many of the health professionals within this work have had their own journey and their own experience. And I think actually that's what makes us so good at what we do, because we really understand it and empathise with people. And even if they come to me and they don't have, IBS and migraines, but you can really empathise with the situation that they're in and the fear of it, and the kind of feeling that it's never going to be different.
Yeah, that all-consuming nature of it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think in comparison to the number of specialists, orthopedic surgeons and physios, and I've lost count of all the different people that I saw, but you kind of got the impression that you were talking to them thinking, you don't know.
Yeah.
What I'm going through.
Yeah, I can't just not do that or do this, or
That's right. Yeah. I don't want your injections and your painkillers. Yeah. It's, so to have that that empathy is valuable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think it means when people kind of come to me, at least, you have a real heart for where they're at when they come and see you. Where I think for quite a lot of professionals, it's almost like a ABC process. It's almost like I do this and then I do that and then I do this, where so many of the people within the kind of SIRPA world, or TMS or PPD, or whatever word we want to call it, they approach people with heart, and they really empathize with their situation and where they are. And I do think it adds such a weight and a wealth to the client experience.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to say hello to Christina. Hello. She's put, physician, heal thyself.
For sure. Yeah. Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Heal thyself. Absolutely doable.
So you were saying about the kind of, reading a book, having this moment when you sort of feel like, I get this. And then all of a sudden you don't get it. And think, God. Was there a point then that you kind of had to do the work, so to speak? Or
absolutely. Well, from that point on, really, I suppose I that moment was obviously powerful enough for me to realize that even though the pain had come back, I just knew that was, there's no mistaking it after an experience like that. It's like, okay, so this is clearly what it is, and I'm just going to have to get cracking with this and knuckle down and do a bit of work on myself. I think, it's probably not uncommon for people that do recover quite quickly. And I've noticed it with my clients as well, is that you have to kind of explain to them, no, you can't just do the work for a few months and then go back to living your stressful, fearful way of being, and like you've fixed yourself and wash your hands of it. It's kind of it requires a bit of work and a bit of soul searching and proper sort of investing in your health like that. So so it took a while, it took a while to sort of go around the houses and not go around the houses, but just explore different things. There's lots of information out there. It can be a bit of a maze. Through doing the journaling and somatic tracking and finding my own little versions of that worked for me. It was all very, very powerful stuff that got me through to where I am now. Yeah.
And I think that for myself and for clients is it's not a straight line. It's not you start off at this point and you go straight to point B. It's always more of a roller coaster-esque spiral experience where you kind of think about a topic and you work through some of it, and then you go, oh, not this thing again, and you work through that thing a little bit more, and then you think, right, that's it, I've done it now, and then all of a sudden you're like, damn, I gotta come through it again. Do you think that's the same for you and your client?
Yeah, definitely. It's all, excuse me, it's all a bit of a, one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back.
Yeah.
And it depends on what your triggers are, I think, as well. And I forgot what I was going to say now, but yeah, absolutely. It's all about kind of accepting that that's the way it is as well sometimes. Yeah, it's just, it's a journey.
One of the difficult things is patience with yourself along that journey, and saying patience that you have to take it at a pace that's suitable for you, and that might be slower than what you want it to be. And that's so infuriating.
Yeah, I think it takes time to kind of learn how you as an individual operate, and what it took me a long time to recognize when something was not right with me, whether, an emotion that I wasn't expressing, or I wasn't happy about something. And I'm so good at squashing all of that down. It takes practice and that sort of nuance of listening and going, hang on a minute, I'm not happy about something here. I don't know what it is. And it's the more you do it, the better you get at recognizing yourself and what you're doing, so that you can nip it in the bud before symptoms come on. And so that journey to get to that point obviously is going to be a little bit all swirly and up and down, and as you try and figure yourself out, I think.
We've got a few people watching, so hello everybody, and thank you for being here. If anybody is struggling with anything or resonates with anything that we're saying and wants to ask either myself or Julie or both of us a question, then feel free to pop it in the comments. We will by all means answer those questions as best we can and share our nuggets of wisdom where they come up. So yeah, by all means, or just say hi. Nice to have you here. But if you've got any questions, then do pop them in comments, and we'll answer them. So yeah, I think kind of how if clients are really that's the thing for me about kind of having one-to-one help and listing somebody like you and me as a person to help, because I think one of the hardest things from a client's point of view, whether that's myself or whether that's somebody else, is you can't see your own stuff. And it's only when you have someone else that says, oh, hang on a minute, did you realize that this has happened and that links to that you go, oh, how did I not make those connections?
How did I not see that? That's right. And
I think that's the same no matter who you are. Like I always say, like, I'm the person with this huge toolkit, and yet I still can't see my own stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It takes me ages to figure it out sometimes, and every now and then I'll get a symptom come up and I'm like, what is it? What? But I'm fine. Why is this happening?
I should be able to know what this is.
I should have it like that. And absolutely.
Pauline, hello, Pauline. Nice to have you here. And she's got hi from Spain.
Oh, Spain. Hi. Jealous much.
As we sit here, mind you, it's quite sunny today in old Yorkshire.
Oh, not down south.
Is it not?
No, it's grim down south.
Oh, what a shame. Well, I'm sure it's a bit better in Spain, Pauline.
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, it's hot here.
It's hot, is it? Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it's. I was walking the dog this morning, and it really knocked me for six. That weather, cool. It was bracing. Winter is definitely upon us.
I was only saying the other day that in England the seasons seem to change very quickly from summer to autumn. I always find this time of year one of the hardest times of year. because I really love summer, and a lot of the things that bring me joy and top up my well-being are all outdoor things. And then it literally seems like a week later, the nights are drawing in, and like you say, it's brisk and cold.
It doesn't guide you in gently, does it? There's no sort of gradual slope into winter. It's like, bosh, you're in it. It's harsh. It is harsh. It certainly affects my my mindset or my because I'm definitely a sunshine girl. I lived in Mallorca for a little while and can't tell you the difference in my whole approach to life when you wake up every single morning and there's the blue sky and there's the sunshine and it's like every day. Amazing. But
what would you prefer in terms of your mindset and well-being? Do you think that kind of, you prefer the sunshine and the heat, or do you prefer the changing seasons?
Well, I do, I suppose. So when I also lived in Florida for a while, and so that was just like hot all the time, and so there was part of me then that was missing putting a nice woolly jumper on and snuggling up in front of the fire with a hot drink and kind of enjoying the early nights. But overall, I would have to say I'll take the sunshine and the heat any day. I'm a bit chilly mortal, I much prefer the warmth. It helps me relax as well, I think if I'm cold then I'm all sort of tense and just the disposition that I have from a sunny day.
So what do you do on the down days then? What do you do when it's kind of cold and miserable and you think well,
I try to force myself out there unless it's absolutely torrential, because I always feel better even if it might be cold and a bit grey and grim, but I always feel better after some fresh air and get the blood pumping a little bit, and then really I just have to kind of embrace it, I suppose, and get the blankets out and enjoy the hot drinks and curling up on the sofa and I just try and get in with the whole cozy vibe rather than sitting there wishing it wasn't so.
I think it's really easy to fall into miserable thinking or kind of miserable I think it's actually really easy to fall into that, and often that what gives me energy or what's fun or what kind of gives me that spark back is usually the harder thing to do or to think about. You think, I really don't want to do it, but you kind of got to remember to put the fun back and do things. You're right. It's very easy to be a bit all doom and gloom and I can't be bothered and a bit mopey, I suppose, isn't it? And takes a bit of conscious effort to make that choice as to how you're going to tackle day to day, I suppose. That makes it sound like it's some sort of depression, but it's still a mindset that you need to wrap your head around. If you struggle with the cold and the early nights, it's absolutely a mindset thing and a choice that you make as to how it's going to affect you to some degrees, certainly. And I think it's a conversation I do have quite a lot with clients is, what brings you joy, what brings you fun. I think when chronic pain or chronic symptoms come in, you kind of, everything gets swept out of the way and you just end up on this perpetual, how's the symptom today kind of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it absolutely dictates whether you're going to do the things you enjoy or not. And when you've had that debilitating symptom for long enough, then then those joyful things kind of go out the window because they're not enjoyable anymore if you're in pain all the time, So I absolutely get how you can wind up losing all of the things that you used to love doing. Yes, it's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yours was much more. I mean, I guess kind of, migraines and IBS are debilitating in a way, but back pain, on the other hand, is this real debilitating thing. So,
yeah,
how did you start that process in terms of getting back to movement and walking and enjoying life?
I think just by doing little bits of it. So for me, I couldn't sit down. I couldn't do anything for any prolonged period of time. I couldn't walk for very long. I couldn't sit for very long. I couldn't. So I just used to do what I could do. I was quite sort of, I knew that I could walk for 20 minutes. So I would walk for 20 minutes. And I would use that time I would turn it into like a mindfulness walk, so that I wasn't using that time thinking about where the pain level was, but actually I was looking at the trees and the color of the sky and the feeling of the ground underneath my feet and the sun and the shadow and which does you good because you're not focusing on the pain, it does become quite a joyful experience, even if it is something as simple as walking. And in terms of sitting down, I was always determined that I was still gonna go out for meals with friends and things like that. That was the big problem for me, was not being able to socialize. So everybody sits down and they socialize. And I would go out for a meal, sit down for as long as I could sit down, knowing that I would stand up when I wanted to stand up, and then I would sit down again, and then I might stand up and I might walk outside the restaurant for 5 minutes, and then I come sit back down again. And rather than turn it into this hideous thing that I had to somehow orchestrate my evening around, it was just, well, that's how it is for me. I can't get wrapped up in that as well as everything else that I'm trying to focus on. I'm just going to do what I can do. Enjoy chatting to my friends. Sometimes I'm going to do that sitting down, and sometimes I'm going to do that standing up, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
just the way it is. Yeah.
We've had a question from Christina. So she's asked, should those without pain ask the sufferer, how it is, or is it best to keep stum? Brilliant question, Christina. What would you have liked? What do you think?
I think if you're in this journey, this TMS journey, then really, I certainly didn't need people asking me how the pain was. It was like, especially when you have it for several years, it's like, yeah, I don't need you asking me to check in with my pain. Believe me, I'm all over it. It's a boring subject. No, don't ask me about pain. Don't ask me about pain.
I think, what did people do? I've got kind of two minds about it.
Yeah.
And it depends. I think it depends on the person, and I think it depends on the relationship that you've got with them. I think in the world of kind of getting better, the less you talk about the pain, the better. So I think there's definitely, I didn't want people checking up on me, and absolutely, just like you, it's kind of like I go over this again and again and again so many times per day. I'm like bored of the conversation. I'm literally like, can we please talk about anything else apart from that? I think the kind of the closest people, like, you know, my husband, for example, I think if he never checked in with me at all, I'd sort of think, do you not care?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that we did was we changed the name of the things. So you're not saying like, how is your, you know, IBS doing today? You know, we had like more of a different word for it. I can't even remember what it was now, but and we had this sort of, it was a conversation with him to say, how do you want this to be talked about? And it was a bit like, you know, if you check in with me every, you know, once a week, then that's all right. But can we not have every conversation and everything revolving around it?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it depends on who it is and what your relationship with that person is. But I think in general,
you're quite right. Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like nobody cares.
Yeah, I think by rule, the least you talk about it, the better. But I do think it depends on the relationship. And you know, if my best friend never asked me, I'd feel a bit. I'd feel a bit like they don't care.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to feel like you're completely in it on your own, and nobody's caring or interested. But it sort of becomes a topic of conversation. I think that's the difference. You know, to kind of check in with somebody is a genuine sign of care, but it's very easy for it to become like, oh, there's Julie. Julie has a bad back. I'll ask her how her bad back is. Please don't.
Yeah.
Because, you know, yeah. There's part of you that, exactly like you said, you know, you're thinking, I'm so sick of this subject. It's in my head like 24/7. I can't tell you how bored and exhausted I am of thinking about it. But the other part of it is that because it's on your mind all the time, it's really, there's a part of you that's all you want to talk about is the symptom as well. So yeah, it is tricky, and as you say, yeah, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, I suppose, to some extent.
And I think it's really learning from a client's point of view as well, not to talk about their pain so much, and not to put that emphasis. And in my experience, it takes them quite a while to learn what else is my life, or what else am I going to talk about, what else have I got to say, because they've talked about it so much. So say somebody comes to me and they've had, you know, back pain for 5 years. It's like their entire existence, every conversation, every thought, everything just becomes around that. And suddenly when you say, okay, well, what are you going to think about if you're not thinking about that? They're like, I don't know. It's consumed me so much for so long. I don't actually know. And it's almost like this finding yourself process, or kind of going, okay, what topics would I actually talk about with people, or you know, getting used to picking those back up again and making it less about whatever symptom you've got. Absolutely,
yeah. I have a friend that I've sort of been helping along the way, and she's had pain for like pretty much all of her life, you know, since she was 18, like the last 30 years or something. And it's just, she's like, it is who I am. You know, and we've had to have extensive conversations about try and explore beyond that.
Yeah.
And it's understandably a real struggle to break free of that. Yeah.
It's almost the whole conversation of that when you talk to people, it's like my pain, my symptom, my this, and it's like, okay, you know, changing that relationship to say it's one of the things of you. It's not like all of, like, there's a whole personality, there's a whole you that's interested in the world in some way, shape or form, that is all not related to symptoms and pain and whatever it is that you're going through. And like you said, trying to connect with that or find it again, because it just feels so alien and so lost and so like, well, what else have I got?
What else is there?
Yeah.
It's takes practice again. Takes practice to think differently.
Okay, Christina has put, people ask the sufferer, but not those who also suffer, because they have to watch, but are unable to help. Also are unable to live a normal life because their other half can't do it. Yeah. Yeah, so living with a chronic symptom sufferer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
how
I'm sure. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, my other half certainly struggled with it for a long time. Everybody's terribly focused on the sufferer, but not the people who have to sort of suffer in silence alongside them, which must be massively challenging for them. Yeah.
I always think the toolkit is such a universal toolkit. For me, it's kind of when you learn the tools that are involved with the TMS work. So journaling, for example, journaling is as useful a tool for the person who's living with the sufferer as it is for the person who's suffering. Because for me, there must be a lot of conversation that you kind of want to say, but you can't say because you don't want to upset them, or you don't want to, and for me, like, to sit down and offload in all of the words that you want to say when you can't say it to somebody is such a wonderful and powerful tool that you can then bin it or rip it up or burn it or whatever. And, you don't have to tell your other half. But I still do think that you have to validate your feelings of anger, frustration, disappointment, all the things that they experience as much.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, the people living with the sufferer, the feelings of, like, anger and frustration and all that repressed stuff that you feel like you're not allowed, you don't deserve, you don't have it as bad as them, so you don't get to complain. I mean, after a while, man, that feeling and the resentment probably as well is building up. And yeah, you're right. I think journaling is probably one of the best tools that they could use, I think, to offload some of that. Definitely.
Christina's put, probably the worst is planning something for the next day and then waking to find that their pain is such that it can't be done.
Yeah.
Oh, so disappointing. Your heart just drops.
Yeah.
So tough.
Yeah.
And the question is kind of, do you do it anyway? Or do you not go because you think, well, they can't go, so I should go?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you've planned.
Yeah, it's tricky for sure.
And I don't think there's a right answer, to be honest.
Well, I guess it depends on a lot of things, but whatever it is you decide to do, I think there's perhaps a lot of work to be done around acceptance and managing your own expectations so that you're not constantly in conflict with reality. The reality of, not being able to do all the things that you plan to do.
I think you have to have something that's your own, something that's yours. It's like if your entire, so we were talking earlier on in the conversation about, what fills you up, what gives you energy, what makes it fun. And I think if you take all that away because you're living with the person who's suffering and suddenly you have nothing that keeps you motivated and keeps you fun and laughing and all those kinds of things, then you just end up as miserable, depressed, and in chronic symptoms as the person that's suffering.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Something that is yours that you say, I organise this thing because it's what I like to do. And actually, I do it with some friends or I do it with somebody else. I do it regardless of whether that person can do it or not, because otherwise you just lose your sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Christina's put, after 9 years, I'm an expert. 9 years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
tough.
Christina. Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah.
What would you say, Christina, then? After 9 years, you've got to have some learned things in there that you use that keep you going and really work for you. So tell us, what's your top tips? What would you say to somebody else that's in your situation, Christina? It'd be nice to hear your thoughts after 9 years, like you say. Um, you got to have some good skills in there.
I'm sure you have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be good to hear them. Get typing. Tell us your thoughts.
I keep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well, we were talking earlier on about the path not being a line. It's not like you get better and it just every day it just gets better and better and better. So I think as well, if you're the person who's living with the person who's trying to recover, then it's disappointing when you see that person get so far and then go backwards again.
Setback. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's hopes are raised and then and dashed and
Yeah, I think there's conversation there, isn't there, about how we best work as a team in this particular situation. And maybe, I'm really loving this conversation, by the way, because it's a conversation that doesn't happen a lot as the effect on those around that aren't
around us. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Kind of, it's easy to forget about them. But actually they're living their own kind of, their own sufferance, their own version of it. And they get overlooked because they're not the one with the physical pain. But I certainly, I witness it and it's real. My heart goes out to the partners, the other halves that have to revolve their life around.
I think for me, one of the things with my relationship is that we agreed, my husband and I agreed kind of quite earlier on about we're quite harsh with each other sometimes, and that's okay. Like if you have a bad day, it's okay. Like not trying to make everything so perfect, wonderful, and magical all the time, because I think when you try too hard, then that's added self-induced pressure. Sometimes it was okay to say, I've had enough of you and I need to go do something else. But that was a conversation that we had. And I think because, we were friends before we got together. So I think we had that ability to kind of have that honesty. And I think there's something in there that we've already spoke about acceptance and honesty and it being as it is and that being okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Christine's another couple of comments. She put, I keep him working, and that's my thing. I'm 71 now. So, wow. And when you love enough, you don't mind not doing things. The love for the other person overrides self-interest. Wow.
Yeah, that's very selfless, Christina.
And I think there is a point of that I think there's still an element of your own feelings being justified. And I do think that it's absolutely true. If somebody that you love is struggling, then you don't mind forfeiting certain things because they're struggling. I think, you wouldn't love them if you didn't make those adjustments for them. I think it's what do you do with the genuine feelings that come with that, to be heard and justified.
Yeah, I think that's still really important, a really important part of it. Especially if you are so very focused or spend a lot of time in each other's company, which I guess when you're older, you're probably more inclined to do.
Yeah. And there's got to be a place for that emotion to go, because otherwise we just bottle it up and keep it with us all the time. And I think caring for somebody or having your plans changed at the last minute and all of these things have very genuine frustrations, anger, disappointment, feeling let down, all of these things.
Totally justified.
Yeah. And how often do we not justify our own emotions? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Liz has put, it's a difficult balance carrying on with your own interests while being supportive of your partner. I encourage my other half to lead as fulfilling a life as possible, to spend time in the company, in friends. It is hard, of course. Much as you want the best for them, it is constant reminder of the things that you can't manage. So true. There's a bit of a feeling of being left behind when you try to hide, so not to spoil it for them.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, of course. There's guilt there, isn't there? I guess it's, as going back to the person who has the symptoms, who has the TMS, the pain, and that you're letting your partner down, that you can't do the things that they want to do, and how frustrating it must be for them. You do feel guilty because you can't be the partner that you once were or would want to be. It's hard, and it's all about, I guess, that's a conversation, isn't it, that you need to have, I think, to acknowledge how challenging it is on both sides. And another great journaling topic, I should imagine, as well.
Yeah. There's so many strands to the journey to recovering, I think. And it's really hard sometimes to not try and tackle all those strands at once and kind of feel like you need to fix everything about all of it all at once.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You want to feel like you're not letting somebody down, and you want to feel like you're increasing your self-awareness, and you want to feel like you're digging into your finding your life again, your identity again, and all of these things. And it's a bit like you can't do that all now. And yes, you will do all of those things as you go along, but there's a stress or a pressure there to get better quickly and deal with all these strands of it all at once.
Yeah.
And you really can't.
It's not possible, no, of course. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is a case of having that conversation, and there has to be a certain amount of surrender and acceptance to what is. And I was quite fortunate that my partner, we have like a lot of our own independent interests and hobbies. So he had his fair amount of escapism from me. But yeah, he would get super frustrated with me that there was always a problem. There was always a difficulty that we had to overcome. I always had to make everything complicated because, I couldn't sit in the car for that long, and this, that, and the other. And then likewise, there would be times when I'd be like, why can't he support me in the way that I need him to support me? Why does he keep doing X all the time when he knows that that's not what I want him to do? And why does it? So, it's just, and the shame, of course, of not being able to, I think it is shame, different from guilt, of not being able to be the partner that you feel that he or she deserves, or that's not what you signed up to when you got together, was to sort of be this half a person that you are. I'm sure there's a lot of shame there as well about it.
Yeah, So we've got Christina says, it doesn't mean that it doesn't drive me crazy sometimes. Yep.
Yeah.
She's also got, you do your best and understand that you're only human. And I think that that is a huge part of the work that I love doing with clients is kind of re-evaluating what their expectations are, both of themselves and of other people, and saying, you know, can we kind of allow ourselves to be human, and what would that look like, or what would that sound like, and how's that different to what they do currently? And I think it comes up with a lot of kind of aha moments that people are just like, oh my God, I'm expecting myself to over expectant of myself, or over expectant of partners or friends or whoever. And it can lead to quite a lot of re-evaluation as well. Liz has put, my partner is very understanding, but when you know you are batting them away, and as a woman can't give what they want, there's a horrible feeling of uselessness.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I found that particularly in my case, because mine was quite a lot of mine was migraines, and migraines is, you know, lock yourself in a dark room and hide away from the world kind of solution. I found it really interesting when I came across this sort of work, because what that gave me was exactly what I needed, which was I was feeling that the world was too overwhelming. So a migraine allowed me to lie in a dark room and, you know, hide under the blankets and
hide
with the world, which to me gave me exactly what I wanted. But also, I think, you know, on one hand, your body's kind of doing something to get what you want, but on the other hand, you're like loaded with the uselessness or the shame and the guilt of going, you know, well, I've been in here for however many hours or days or whatever, and, you know, whoever your partner is has had to manage life in the meantime, or cancel plans or do different things. So yeah, I think it's a real mixture of feelings.
Yeah.
Christina's put, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health.
Yeah. Don't forget that one, Christine.
And she's also put that Maslow's hierarchy of needs allow both to understand that their needs may not be the same. I used to use Maslow's quite a bit in my corporate job.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's quite a good little model to explain that people's needs are not always the same.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And in that sort of scenario and that relationship where somebody's one half is sick all the time, or, you know, unable, then the contrast in the needs of those two different people is obviously going to be extreme, and when it's constant and prolonged, then yeah, that's a big old challenge, and full of emotions. And
yeah, I think for me, kind of three things that are standing out here are expectations, and looking at what we're expecting of people, both yourself and through your partnerships. So I think expectations is certainly a piece. I think there's an understanding, acceptance piece, and I think there's a journaling piece to validate the reality of the situation as well.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of it's okay to be human, which
that's right.
We talk a lot about that in our work, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. The old self-compassion is, we talk about it all the time, but it's so important. It's so important. And again, in this sort of, you know, what we're talking about here, I think if you can have compassion for yourself, so that suddenly you're not suddenly at all, but you're all the build-up of your own frustrations and your own difficult emotions. If you can do that, then that kind of makes a bit of room for you to then have compassion for your partner as well. Yeah,
we're so damn hard on ourselves, aren't we? All the time.
So unforgiving, and we can't possibly allow ourselves to be less than, I suppose. Even under, it's grueling, when you're living with severe symptoms like that. So, and yet still we have very little room for sympathy for ourselves. And
I'd like to say as well that I've been working in this field for over 10 years. And this came to me the day before yesterday, but once again, I was doing it to myself. So I think we've kind of gone full circle in our discussion about saying you can't see your own stuff. And, even though I've been doing it for 10 years and helping all sorts of people and everything, I still, the day before yesterday, sat there and went, hang on, you're being incredibly harsh and ridiculously expectant of yourself. Hang on. So I went and grabbed a journal book, and I went and had a coffee in a cafe and kind of sat there and saying, right, okay, if you put your compassion, kindness head on and looked at you from another person's perspective, what would you say? And I wrote all the things that I would say, and I was sat there going,
That's better.
Why is it taking me? You kind of drive yourself so mad for so long, and then you suddenly go, "Hang on,"
Yeah. And then why was it so difficult to get to that point? Do you know what I mean?
We are human, aren't we? We are, and you can't get away from it. And even if you have the toolkit, it still takes you a while to, to kind of do it and put it into action.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, life's work, really, isn't it? I don't think it's something that we.
Christina's put, nice to chat with you. Thank you. Got to go. A patient has arrived. So, yes, Christina.
Hi, Christina. Thank you.
And then Liz has put, I know only too well that I'm not the woman he met in many ways, but then that's true of aging generally. Yep. Irrespective of whether you're well or not, he's not the man I met either.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And actually, kind of, would you want either of you to be like stuck in this age that you never change, like you never grow, or you're just stuck in this kind of certain time frame? I'm not sure that.
That's a really good point, Zoe. Yeah. Would we still want to be? Yeah. No, I don't think I would. I suppose it depends how the change evolves.
I don't think I would either, actually. I think it's really easy to kind of look at a time point in your life with rose-tinted glasses, like, everything was great and wonderful, and you think, actually, when you were there, it really wasn't. You didn't have all sorts of things that you've got now, or all sorts of learning or growth, or all sorts of stuff. And I think it's really easy to kind of say, well, we were really happy when we were 20 or whatever, and you think, you had no money, you were broke as anything. You had
really happy. Yeah, quite.
Let's just put no, Zoe, but I could sure use a bit of the energy that I had back when I was young. With a laughing face. She's put, thanks so much for the session, Zoe and Julie, really appreciate it. We've got to tap back into that energy again. Do something that makes you feel like a kid.
Yeah, that's right. It is. And those are the exact things that are so easy to lose sight of and even forget what that was. But it's super important and powerful stuff, I've got back into, I do ballroom dancing now, and I go singing because that was purely out of the exercise of thinking, what did I used to absolutely love to do when I was a child? And it was dancing and singing, and I was quite good at both of them. And I thought, well,
why am I not doing these?
Why am I not doing these? Yeah.
I think even better if there's something that the two of you used to do as a couple, like back in the early days, and you can sort of, it's within your remit to do now. So, for example, if you as a young couple used to go to the cinema, then go to the cinema again, or reenact a date that you had when you were younger, or just to kind of bring that energy back. And we forget, we so forget, we really do. We forget what made us laugh and enjoy, and we kind of think, oh God, we can't do that now because we're these grown adults. It's like, nah, go and
why the heck not?
Why the heck not? Let's go. And
let's switch things up a bit.
Yeah,
that's what I always think.
Yeah.
Change
it just
the
made
vibe.
me think actually that I might reenact date night. My husband and I used to do date night where once a month we take it in turns. So 1 month I'd plan it, and the next month he'd plan it. And we did some crazy things, some lovely, lovely things. And it's just made me think, actually, Liz, thank you very much for the reminder that I might reenact, bring it back in, that we organise a date night.
It's a thing, isn't it? So it's obviously effective. I completely imagine it would be as well.
Like, when was the last time that you laughed so hard that your belly hurt? And what could you do now that you could just get to a point where you're just lost in life and loving whatever you're doing?
That's right. In the moment.
And I think that it doesn't really matter what your symptom is, that you could find something that you could access, something that you could enjoy, something you could do in a certain way that would just lift your spirit a little bit. And I think we need it even more for those in the UK at this time of year, when the nights are drawing in and the weather's just dropped and you're all a bit and we've just been through the last 12-18 months that we've been through.
I
think we need laughter and fun and
that's right. And I think perhaps it kind of, my recollection, I suppose, is that those things just kind of happened to me when I was younger. I didn't set out to go and fits of hysterics with my friends, but or get into the escapades that we used to get into. But the point is that now you do have to be proactive in it and accept that that's just, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to go look for it.
Go find it and actually pencil it in the diary and make it happen. Realize that it's non-negotiable, realize that it's important, and that so if you had a ballroom dancing class, for example, you don't just move it out your calendar because somebody else needs you for something, but it's a priority. It's something that you say, no, that's important for me. It's important for me to do it.
It's a commitment to yourself. Yeah, very much so.
Well, I think that the clock's just gone 2:00, and I think that is a beautiful point to end our discussion on.
I agree.
It's been a fab conversation. Thank you so much, Julie, and I hope that everyone's found that useful. Takeaways, I think, go find something fun, and
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, Zoe. Nice to talk to you.
Yes, you too. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.